Awesome. So thank you, Aron, for taking your time. And I know it's a bit after lunch. Um, Thank you for making time and coming to talk to us from Exceptional. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to start about what Exceptional is all about. Uh, I know we know that you guys are from Australia, so I just wanted to ask, how was Exceptional founded? I mean, what made you guys start Exceptional?
And look. Firstly, thanks for having me and with you, Zoho, for a number of years, and we're really we're thrilled to be partnering with you guys. So Exceptional started in 2017, initially as a business to offer software testing as a service and employ autistic people. The business was started by Mike Tozer. Mike's a British social entrepreneur. I met Mike when he first kind of conceived the business, and I was really struck by his passion to connect people who might be overlooked for work, but often have tremendous skills and offer a business service. And so we started the business in 2017, and we had customers for software testing in Australia, Hong Kong, and the US. But really quickly, businesses became more interested in our talent and how we could train them on employing autistic people and doing a better job of including them in the workforce. So we pivoted quite quickly into offering talent, coaching, training, inclusion services.
Is that only in Australia, or is it like a global thing that you guys are doing?
Yeah, so I mean, you have to start somewhere, and so we're based in Australia. So we now have built a number of tools for businesses everywhere who want to do a better job of including diverse groups. So we work now across neurodiversity, and I'll explain that term in a minute, but it includes conditions such as ADHD, dyslexia, Tourette's, and we work with employers through the region, so through APAC and also in the US. And so we've developed training, so online training and skills assessments for individuals to be able to demonstrate their skills. And both those tools are available for employers anywhere.
Nice. My next question is, obviously in this day and age, for recruiters to hire people is getting difficult with what people call great resignations and people wanting to be their own bosses. Tell me, Aron, is it hard to, go and hire autistic people, or do they come forward and register themselves in some sort of portal? How does that process work?
Yeah, so the process works. They register with us online at exceptional.io and run through a series of assessments and puzzles. But what really is behind your question there is, at a time of great skill shortage in multiple industries, but particularly tech, globally, APAC, North America, Europe, employers everywhere are screaming out for digital talent, for security, data talent. And at this time, we've got a group of people, particularly autistic people, that are often underemployed or unemployed. So the UN has estimated that 80% of the world's autistic adults are underemployed or unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, locally in Australia, our official unemployment rate is 3.5%. So it's the lowest in my lifetime. But the unemployment rate for autistic people is 31%, so 10 times higher.
Mm-hmm.
And so something's clearly not working. You're talking about people that have got high numeracy skills, high attention to detail, high logic, but often they're overlooked in a traditional process. So we get candidates that come to us who identify as autistic. We screen them through a gamified process that we've built, and then we match them with employers. We're building AI to do that. But there is simply, in any market that your listeners or the people watching this video are operating in, there is an underemployment of autistic people in particular. and often they can make terrific contributions if given the chance.
Nice. Arna, you have
That's an
some.
interesting out there, Aaron. Definitely, yes. So when it comes to hiring autistic people, the skills or skill sets are the primary entities to finding the best matching talent for any job, for any requisition. So what are some of the unique skills or abilities that you would highlight here for autistic people, and how important are these skills for the tech industry in specific, Aaron?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. And look, at a starting point, there is no one autistic person or one dyslexic person as example. So yeah, if you've met one autistic person as an example, you've met one autistic person, is often the saying. So there is a range of skills, but disproportionately, autistic people in particular can have strong attention to detail. They can have strong pattern recognition. They've often got highly developed numeracy skills, and they can be particularly good at following process, and often they can also be quite creative. So we don't want to pigeonhole people just in tech, but there has been some really big organizations like Microsoft, SAP, EY, in multiple markets who have run quite successful programs targeting autistic people. So they're the kind of skills that we see. Specifically for tech, there's also an ability to learn. I mean, tech's changing all the time. And so the ability to learn new technologies, whether it's the new release of the latest version of Python or whatever language, new applications really quickly. So the ability to learn and absorb and then apply information really quickly, we find is quite prevalent among autistic people.
Great, great. That's really nice. That's really interesting to know, Aaron, from your side. And that brings me to the next question. What kind of adjustments or changes can employers make at their side to better accommodate this talent pool?
Yeah, and this is really where our work starts. So often when we started offering training. And it was often assumed that the training was for the autistic people who were looking to get into the workforce, and it wasn't. It was actually for employers, because while there's some challenges that autistic people may face in terms of getting into the workforce, really the shift needs to happen on the side of the employers. So there would be some things that employers are doing every day they don't even realise that are putting people off. For example, really long job descriptions with kind of ambiguous language. So phrases like customer obsession and passionate about data and these kind of phrases that we use in job ads. Really long job ads with just big blocks of text. So I have ADHD, and so for me, I'm really creative, lots of energy. But if you give me 10 sentences in a row in a block of a paragraph, I get a headache just kind of looking at it. So, how do you actually break it down to the core things you need? I think another one that really puts people off is often, the candidates that we speak with can often struggle with unstructured interviews. So, you and I are having this conversation now. We've had a couple of, we haven't had a dress rehearsal, but we've at least had a conversation about what are the kinds of questions. And so having questions where you're trying to throw curveballs, if you understand that expression, at people and get them to think on their feet, how many golf balls fit in a jumbo jet kind of thing. How would you work out certain problems that often have nothing to do with the job? So I'll give you an example. I was speaking with the head of talent and HR for a business that was a systems integrator. So some of your customers are systems integrators. They go in and make recommendations on technology. And this person had just gone through a whole bunch of interviews as they were expanding, and he interviewed more than 100 people over the course of 6 weeks. And I asked him what he did for those interviews. And what he did was he threw kind of curveball questions at them, and he got them to think on their feet. He took them off and off site to a cafe in order to do so. And as I was hearing this, I just asked him one question, which was, how do your consultants work when they go into an organization? And he said, well, they go in and they take a detailed requirements of what the organization does and what they might need. And, they come back with an informed recommendation. And I kind of responded with, that's what I would expect you to do if I was paying for your advice as a systems integrator. And I didn't say anything else, but it just kind of clicked for him. And he went, we're assessing people in a way that is not how we work. So if you're going to pay a consultant to come to your business and make a recommendation, you don't want off the hip, just, gut feel answers. You want them to look at the data. And so my recommendation would be is to get as close to the job that you're doing. So if you're in the software business, data analytics business, security business, is there a work sample or something you can give people that can show if they can play the game? So I'm speaking to some colleagues and some friends from India. I know, cricket's an obsession over there. If you're going to choose someone for your team, you wouldn't ask them questions. You'd get them in the nets. You'd see if they can play. Yeah, how do they play spin? How do they play pace? Or whatever the position you wanted them to play. And I think in business, we often take a bit of an abstract approach to that. And so my advice would be, get them in the nets.
Great.
Really
Test if they can do the job.
Yes.
True. True.
Yeah. So you spoke about skills, you spoke about the adjustments of the hiring process. And now getting to the actual part, the crucial part, what do you think employers must do to retain this talent, Aron? Because that's really important.
To retain them.
Yep.
Yeah, and look, retention, retention is as big a problem as attraction. And so our 3 year, so Exceptional's been in business for, it'll be 6 years next year, but for the last 3 years, we've been tracking our retention rate. So we work with big governments and resource companies and tech companies and financial services, and our turnover rate is 8%.
Has it been 6 years since you started?
I beg your pardon?
Has it been 6 years since you started Exceptional?
We started in 2017, so next year it'll be 6 years.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So five and a half years. But for the last 3 years, we've been tracking our data quite closely around retention, and our retention rate is 92% of people still in a job after 12 months. You compare that to the tech industry, in some sectors it's around 30% in terms of turnover, so only 70%. So we're significantly above any industry average. And it comes down to a couple of things. At one level, you've got to understand the person. And so there's no one size fits all. And so our philosophy is ask the person. So get to know the team, understand how they like to give and receive information, instructions. If they have a different rhythm of work in terms of the day, it's not uncommon for autistic people in particular to have sleep challenges. Matter of fact, that the UK National Autistic Society in the UK estimates 70% of adults have trouble getting to and staying asleep. So perhaps 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. in whatever market you're operating in isn't the best time for them in terms of how well they're gonna function. But asking them and knowing where and then being flexible. So that's one thing, that flexibility and asking the person in terms of what they need. The challenge is for many employers is many autistic people, dyslexic people, ADHDers like me, don't disclose an invisible disability or don't even think of it as a disability. So I use myself as an example. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 12. So my close friends, my long-suffering wife, my family know this about me. But I did not mention in a work context until being part of the founding team of Exceptional that I had ADHD. At one level, it wasn't relevant, but at another, we're always putting the Instagram, Pinterest version of ourselves forward at all times. And so I think making it comfortable to talk is one thing. You can't assume anything about people, but that would be actually starting the conversation in your organisation and becoming literate about the language that we're using and about this group of people. So get curious about this group of people. If you're in the tech industry, you have already employed people. We're talking about 1 in 7, 15% of the world's population have some form of neurodivergence. So tech companies have already employed people in their hundreds or thousands. They just mightn't know so.
And I hope many companies come forward, become literate in that sense, because they have to understand at some point that everyone is wired differently, and they come with their set of challenges and talents.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's about understanding what those challenges might be. Challenges like sleep, as I mentioned, another can be, executive planning. So actually kind of, digesting a task and then breaking it down into components. But on the flip side, there can be great strengths. ADHDers like me, dyslexic people can be incredibly creative and inventive, entrepreneurial and risk-taking. And so it's about understanding the individuals in the same way you do for anyone else. But most people that we're putting into work or working with employers who are already hiring people are comfortable about speaking about their condition as long as they've disclosed it. It's not something they're hiding. And so it's part of their identity, and most of the time they're happy. They're not necessarily happy to be the spokesperson. So one of the risks that we see in working with employers who want to be intentional about hiring from this group is they're expecting people to come in and be, technically competent and do a great job, but also be a spokesperson for everything kind of diversity and neurodiversity related. And that's not fair on them. Sometimes they just want to come in and be a great data engineer. Well, let them do that, but at least giving them that permission to do that if they want to, but being curious about those differences is important.
Well said.
Great. So you spoke about some interesting stats there. You spoke about the flexibility to ask them what they need, and you also mentioned about having how short descriptions is going to help them, right? So that gets me to the last question from my side. So how would you or any recruiter create an awareness that's more accessible for autistic people? How can a recruiter create more awareness on this?
Yeah, so what scares most recruiters that we speak to is not the people that are getting through to the last 5 and not being hired. It's people they're not even seeing. So often it's people that are being scared off. So one easy way, I've mentioned a couple in terms of language, but the other one is the shopping list of requirements. So, for example, the tech industry, this is chronic. So you've got 15 different technologies that are must-haves, and some of them are applications that you might be able to learn, not become an expert in, but learn pretty quickly. And so really just breaking that down to the core, what really is essential? What's a non-negotiable here? We're not, and any organization's got their own tech stack, so you're going to have to learn things as you go in anyway, but just breaking it down to what is the core. And it's not about lowering the bar, but people that we see, and we've assessed several thousand people over the last few years, they will read a job description literally. So if a role for a data analyst, as an example, says you need Power BI, if they're not users of Power BI, even though they might have seen it or what have you, they will not apply. If they don't do one thing in the job description, they won't apply. And potentially employers are missing out on people that could be up to speed in a couple of weeks, not being an expert, but at least knowing the fundamentals. And people are excluding themselves. So being explicit that you don't need all of these technologies, but I think reduce the shopping list. Unstructured interviews, I would drop. We suggest giving candidates the interview questions in advance. And if you're concerned that means you're not going to have a merit-based process, fine, do it for everybody. But what you're doing then for autistic people in particular is you're helping them overcome often acute social anxiety and difficulty, particularly when they first meet new people, and you're giving them, you're making it equitable. Equitable is not equal, right? Everyone doesn't necessarily get the same thing. It's just how do you actually make it fair? And making it fair might be actually giving them a bit of advance notice.
Nice.
Definitely, Aron. I should say there was lots of takeaways from this session through you. And thank you so much for your time, Aron. Shravan, before we close, do you have any questions for Aron?
I just wanted to wish Aron and his team of Exceptional the best of luck, and I hope you guys go all over the world and help people, the talent that most companies are missing out. I wish you guys the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you. And look, we really value you. So we use Zoho CRM, we use Zoho Recruit. All of our candidates go through your, all our data is kind of stored with your process. And we love your story as well. Coming out of South India, and kind of conquering the world. So it's a good partnership. And I think the message for employers is really simple. There is a group of people out here that could be employed en masse in lots of organisations, and tech seems to be a really great place to start. So if firms are struggling, hopefully some of those lessons, our website's got lots of blogs and data on it. Often making small changes can make a big difference. And these changes I'm talking about, they're all free. It doesn't cost you anything to give people the questions in advance or to ask them what adjustments they need, start a conversation. All those things are free.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you so much for your time, Aron. It really was very insightful. Lots of takeaways, as I said. I really wish you all the best.